Someone asked me to explain rhyming in songwriting, so here is everything you need to know.
Let me bless the studio. Fix up the microphone. Check 1, 2, 3, go. Sure. This is Udo Ibeleme, your host, and welcome to the show. Preach Jesus.
Now, I've been writing songs forever, and I've always loved rhyming, and so this is something that I've looked into very, very deeply, and I've tried to do as much as I can to get to the bottom of this particular matter. Now, recently, I've spoken about the aesthetic standard that is resident in creation, and that comes from the fact that God Himself put it in there, and God Himself was operating based on this, right? And I gave some examples of how things that we believe sound good can be traced to things that can be searched out from creation, from a timing perspective, from in terms of the notes, from a frequency perspective, melodically, harmonically, discussed all of that. Rhyming is another thing that is similar to that, because when you rhyme, you're saying two or more things that sound similar. Your ears are testifying to you that they sound good together because they sound like each other. And so that is what makes rhyming what it is. It's something that we discover in creation. And your ability to rhyme is connected to your ability to figure this out, is connected to your ability to hear and appreciate this, to replicate it, and that can be enhanced by your command of the language you speak. I'm speaking English right now. It can be enhanced by your knowledge of not just the proper form of that language, any dialects, and also your knowledge of other languages, because the more of these things you add on, the more languages you add on, the more dialects you add on, and not just that, the more accents you add on, the more opportunities you give yourself creatively, to be able to rhyme any given word with another, or to be able to rhyme any given phrase with another phrase. All right. So this is something that we see in creation, and we listen to it and be like, okay, that's cool, and then it ends up in our songs. All right. I am a Trinidadian. I'm also a Nigerian. Now, in Nigeria, rhyming is not as much of a thing as it is in the West, right? Our culture doesn't rhyme that much, right? Even the Bible, the poems that are in there don't rhyme as much. There may be some rhythmic flow in the poem, there may be some interplay in terms of the ideas that are there, but rhyming is not something that's used in biblical poetry. Neither is it something that's heavily used on our end in terms of from Nigeria. Now that Nigerian media is popular, in particular movies and of course music now, we're beginning to hear that some people rhyme. And I don't think they rhyme because they're Nigerians. I think they rhyme because of the Western influence. They've learned to rhyme by consuming Western media. All right. Now, people tend to have superiority or inferiority complexes when we start talking about different cultures and what they bring to anything, whether it's the art of songwriting or something else. But at the end of the day, we're not talking about that so much as we are talking about what has happened. So this is me just saying that this is what I have noticed. All right. A lot of the blessings and the advancements technologically, culturally, and otherwise of the Western world come from Christianity, despite the fact that I just said biblical poetry doesn't rhyme. What biblical law and society that comes out of an appreciation for God's law and holding on to the gospel of Jesus Christ, what that does is it promotes peace. Jesus brings what? Peace on earth, goodwill to men, right? Anywhere the gospel flourishes, peace comes, freedom comes. And with all of those things, survival is not as much of an issue as it was in prior days. And so you have time to work on art, to work on craft, and to be those kings that would seek out things like the relationship between words and phrases that rhyme with each other. You understand? So this has nothing to do with okay, they're white, so it's better, or they're black, so it's not as good. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with the grace of God coming into the world in the form of Jesus Christ and how that has come through all of history. All right? That's what this has to do with. So let's get to rhyming now. Okay? We've already discussed that rhyming is what happens when one word or phrase sounds like another word or phrase. All right? So let's start it off. The first thing I would consider when it comes to rhyming is Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss was a children's author, and he's well known for his classics as far as his children's books, right? One in particular, Green Eggs and Ham. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them. Sam, I am. All right? So there you have ham rhyming with Sam, rhyming with am. Okay? You have a vowel sound and a consonant sound being repeated each time. The end of a word, the vowel and the consonant sound. All right? Notice I am not here so focused on the letters as much as I am focused on the sounds that they make. All right? Because sometimes different letters make different sounds. This is not Armenian that we're working with. We're working with English in this case. All right? And English does have 26 letters, but it has 44 sounds. And sometimes those letters make different sounds than the regular short vowel sounds and hard consonant sounds. So keep in mind as we go through this that I'm going to be looking at the sounds that are made. All right? Let's keep that in mind. So Dr. Seuss has this type of rhyme. All right? And this is actually a Dr. Seuss book that I just read for one of my daughters called 10 Apples Up on Top. All right? So what do we have here? Look, see now, I can hop with 4 apples up on top. And I can hop up on a tree with 4 apples up on me. So we have hop and top. All right? Up, up. We have E and E. Tree, me, E, E. These two E's make the same sound as this one E. Again, we're dealing with the sounds. All right? So here we just have a vowel sound at the end. Same vowel sound. Here we have a vowel and a consonant, the A and the P. Right? So hop, top, tree, me, ham, sam, am. All right? So this is Dr. Seuss rhyming. This is not an insult to Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss writes books for children, and most authors who write books for children have this type of rhyming. This is perfect rhyming, where the vowel and the consonant are where you will find your rhyme. The last vowel sound, and if there's a consonant after it, then that consonant sound as well. All right? So this is the Dr. Seuss rhyme, and this is where we start. This is actually the most simple way to think of rhyming. Okay? This is the Dr. Seuss rhyme. Next, we get to imperfect rhyming. Now, it is important that we understand what this is. Imperfect rhyming is to be compared to the Dr. Seuss rhyming. Okay? In the Dr. Seuss rhyming, we have a vowel and a consonant. This is where the rhyming is for the Dr. Seuss. When we get to imperfect rhyme, if I had a word like face, now I can make face rhyme with place if I want. We would just keep the last vowel sound and the consonant sound after it, if there is one, right? And we just switch out what comes before that, right? So if I want to do an imperfect rhyme here, I could do the same here. I could switch out this F for PL, I have place. Switch it out for R, I have race. Okay, I could even put a B here, switch that C for an S, you have base, right? All of those are Dr. Seuss perfect rhymes, okay? But what if I said straight, all right? We notice that the consonant sound at the end of face and at the end of straight, they're different, but the vowel sounds are the same, all right? This is what allows you to be able to rhyme more things now. So any given word or phrase that you want to rhyme, if you just stop in here, it makes it a little bit more limited, all right? But if you come to the imperfect rhyme, now you have more to work with, all right? We can do another one. We can say a rake, all right? Again, same vowel sound, but the consonant is different, all right? Another one, babe, all right? Same vowel sound, but the consonant is different, all right? So this is what the imperfect rhyme looks like, all right? You could see how we're starting to expand out now the possibilities of what you could rhyme any given word with. Start to expand now when we start to think about imperfect rhyming as a possibility, okay? There's something I want you to note about the imperfect rhyme, all right? You want to pay attention to your accent, okay? You want to pay attention to your accent, as well as you want to pay attention to consonants, okay? For example, the letter R. It's not the only one, and it's not in every case, but sometimes consonants can make things that would have rhymed sound different. Sometimes your accent can give you rhymes that you may not have had if you didn't have that accent, but it can also work in the other way. It's a two-edged sword. So sometimes something that might have rhymed in one accent doesn't rhyme in the other accent. So these are things that you have to keep in mind when you start venturing past Dr. Seuss. You have to keep this in mind. All right? Next thing we want to start looking at is two syllables. Up until now, we've only been rhyming one syllable with one syllable with one syllable. If, for example, I put another syllable here, so now this word is Scarface. If, for example, I put another syllable here, making this word Scarface, all right, this is still a rhyme, an imperfect rhyme, but it's still a rhyme, right? But I'm not rhyming Scarface, okay? I am rhyming the face part of Scarface, all right, with these, all right? So now we're gonna move to two syllables, all right? So if I wanted to rhyme Scarface, maybe I can rhyme it with Park Place. All right? Park Place, I think, is the second most expensive place in Monopoly. This is rhyming two syllables. Again, we're dealing with imperfect rhyming, and another way to think of imperfect rhyming is to say focus on rhyming the vowels. All right? So if we focus on rhyming the vowels rather than here where you're focused on rhyming the vowel and the consonant that's after it, if there is one, right? Here we're just focusing on rhyming the vowel, rhyming A with A with A with A. No. Here, when you get to two syllables, Scarface, Park Place, you can do it like this, and this still sounds perfect, even though this has a K sound that isn't here. All right? All right? It ends with the same vowel sound and consonant sound. So it sounds like a perfect two-syllable rhyme. Okay? Because of that, even though this is in the middle here, because it's the end, all right? It's the end that catches your ear the most, all right? But this is a two-syllable rhyme scheme between these two, all right? Scarface and Park Place, all right? But what if I was to say a different rhyme? What if I said birthday, first place? All right, so this is now a two-syllable rhyme that is imperfect. All right, okay, the vowels match though. That's the important thing. All right, so again, when you're doing imperfect rhyming, in all rhyming, as a matter of fact, the vowels must match. All right, the vowel sounds must match. So here you have the AR sound, R, and the long A sound, A consonant E, the long A sound. Those are what we match here. All right, and here you have the IR sound, the and you have the long A sound, AY, and A consonant E here. All right, so that's your two-syllable rhymes. And this is very, very simple. You have two syllables. The first syllable rhymes with the first syllable. The second syllable rhymes with the second syllable. The first syllable rhymes with the first syllable. The second syllable rhymes with the second syllable. Notice that I've rhymed a word with two syllables with a phrase with two monosyllabic words in both cases here. All right? So when you start dealing with more than one syllable, it's perfectly fine to start rhyming words that have multiple syllables with phrases that have the same amount of syllables. All right, so that's what we've done. All right, so this is how we rhyme 2 syllables. But we can do more than that. How much more? Let's talk about it. Let's talk now about multisyllabic rhyming. Okay? Now, this is where things start to get a little ticklish. All right? Because this is something that we see coming to the forefront a lot in hip-hop music. The thing about hip-hop music and rapping, as they say, rapping is rhythm and poetry. All right? What happens when you don't have to think as much about melody and you're literally just talking rhythmically and poetically over a beat? What happens is that you have a tremendous amount of freedom to experiment with how you say what you say. And part of that experimentation has led to a lot of multisyllabic rhyming. You would hear people in hip hop talk about multis. This is what they're talking about. All right? But as I've said elsewhere, as I've taken a lot of lessons, technical lessons from calypso and hip hop, these things are transferable, and and I'm not the only one, I have been able to transfer things that I've learned over there in hip hop and in other genres and put them in other genres, right? So that is part of the beauty of not just identifying something with a particular genre, but also being willing to apply it everywhere that it can be applied. All right. So, for instance, I did a soca song called Father Me with my friend Kieran Thomas, who goes by The Furnace. All right. And in the first verse, I do some rhyming where I sort of interchange the rhyming. That's something that we will talk about another time. You rhyme in and out sometimes. That's another thing that we can do. All right. But I'm just doing this so you can understand why I've separated multisyllabic rhyming from the 2-syllable rhyming that we spoke about before. All right. So let's do that now. In Father Me, I rhymed the word perfect with the phrase worth it, and then I rhymed the phrase never so with the phrase let you know. But there are 2 syllables here and there are 3. What's the difference between rhyming 2 syllables and rhyming 3 or more syllables, right? 2 syllables are multi. The 2 does count as multiple, right? But this doesn't follow the same rules as when you get to 3 and up. All right? And that's something I want to show you. Let's look at it, right? So the vowel that we have here and the I vowel that we have here, perfect, worth it, right? And that's the way I pronounce it, perfect, worth it. Perfect can be pronounced as perfect or perfect. All right, that would be the verb form of it, perfect. But I said perfect, right? And then I said worth it, right? The way I pronounce it promotes the rhyme that I do here, right? But the main thing is that I matched these vowel sounds, right? Match this vowel sound with this vowel sound, match this vowel sound with this vowel sound, and it's just 2, all right? With this now, this is actually 3 syllables being matched, right? But you let me not say you never, you don't have to match all 3, all right? Let's look at it. Ne matches with let, all right? Same vowel sound, eh. So and no, same vowel sound, those match. V and you don't match, right? Now I can make it a perfect thing where all the syllables match and I could say y instead of you, right? But the point I'm trying to make here is that with multisyllabic rhyming, all of your syllables don't need to rhyme. The important thing about multisyllabic rhyming, this is what you need to note. You need to note important syllables. And there are 3 important syllables that you must note. The first syllable, the last syllable, and the stressed syllables in between. Okay? So if you want to do a multisyllabic rhyme, 3 syllables or more, you can do more than this, all right? But your first syllable, the first syllable of the rhyme scheme must rhyme. Ne, let. The last syllable must rhyme, so, no. And all the stressed syllables in between. When you're doing 3 syllables, you don't have any stressed syllables in between. So you don't even have to rhyme what is in between. You just have to rhyme the first one and the last one, right? You can rhyme all 3. It's not against the rules. But what I'm saying is, when you follow these rules, you can do more. You have expanded the possibilities of rhyme that you have when you follow these rules and you focus on the important syllables. You understand? In this same song, I did more rhyming than that. How about the second verse? The second verse, I had 5 syllables. I had since I know myself. And that rhymes with my only help. All right? So, imperfect rhyme, right? This ends with an L and F sound. This rhymes with L's with an L and P sound, right? Imperfect, but 5 syllables, right? Since I know myself, 5 syllables. With my only help, 5 syllables. How did I do it? All right? So you have since matches with I matches with my, no matches with O in only, all right? L matches with L, self, help, that matches, all right? So this 4th syllable does not match, right? So it's a 5 syllable rhyme scheme, but only 4 of the syllables actually rhyme. But the first one rhymes, the last one rhymes, and important syllables in between that are stressed rhyme. Okay, so it works. I also did one with 4 syllables, right? Always in a mess. Making a mess. making amends, right? The all here is not a part of this rhyme scheme at all, right? Right? But ways in a mess, making a mess, making amends, right? That's your 4-syllable rhyme scheme. The first syllable, the A in ways, the A in making, the A in making. Last syllable, the E in mess, the E in mess, the E in mends. And then is in a mess, making a mess, making amends. In this particular case, everything sort of rhymes in the middle as well. In, right? So you have a 4-syllable rhyme scheme in which all 4 syllables rhyme. Again, this is not illegal, all right? But the point is that this is not illegal. That's what I want to stress for you guys. That you can focus on the first syllable, the last syllable, and the stressed syllable, all right? The first song I did, it was called Get Crazy, and I had a 7-syllable rhyme scheme for 8 lines. So this was it right here. Bishop Jr. in the place, Christian music in your face. If you knew, you'd give me space to jig and move and give me praise specific to the King of Grace. Is him on whom my sin is placed. Spit and bruise and biggest nails was driven through him till impaled. This is a 7-syllable rhyme scheme. Only 4 of the syllables rhyme. Okay? B rhymes with Chris, rhymes with if, rhymes with jig. Jew rhymes with mew. In music, rhymes with new, rhymes with move. In rhymes with im, rhymes with give, rhymes with give. Place rhymes with face, rhymes with space, rhymes with praise. All right, so there I have 4 syllables within the 7 syllables rhyming. But the first syllable rhymes, the last syllable rhymes, the stressed syllables in between rhyme. Okay? Not all 7, but together you get 7 syllables. This is the point of all this, is to show that this is actually very, very simple and basic stuff. One thing that I've heard when speaking about another field, but it applies here, is that experts never stop doing the basics. A lot of what people find to be very technical and wowing, they are basically very basic things just being done over and over and over, just being stacked on top of each other. This is a lot of imperfect rhyming stacked on top of itself. That's all this is, all right? And all it takes is practice to get used to doing it, and a little bit of effort. That's all it takes. The other thing about rhyming that is important is that once we start opening up our minds to possibilities, we can see that we don't need to rhyme everything the exact same way all of the time. And I don't mean, sometimes you can do a simple rhyme, a Dr. Seuss rhyme. Sometimes you can do something imperfect. Sometimes you can do a multisyllabic rhyme. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, whatever type of rhyme scheme you're doing, you can switch them up and cycle them through each other. So for instance, when I told you guys that I rhymed perfect with worth it, and I rhymed never so with let you know, if you listen to that song, perfect is not right above worth it. The next line after perfect doesn't say worth it. As a matter of fact, these two rhyme schemes were one after the other. So instead of having one rhyme that rhymes with the line under it, and then the next line rhymes with the line under it, so you have A, A, B, B. What happened in that song was that I had A, B, and then A, B. I can't remember the last time that I was perfect. I was never so. I can't remember the last time that I was worth it. I don't need to let you know. All right? And with the second verse as well, those rhymes, that 5-syllable rhyme scheme, that 4-syllable rhyme scheme that I told you guys about, those were in between each other as well. The 5-syllable rhyme scheme wasn't close together, line after line. It was actually separated by another rhyme scheme. This one was A, B, 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 and then I go A, B, B, B again, right? Since I know myself as A, I always in a mess, that's B. I didn't make or making a mess, never thinking of making amends, back to A with my only help. Back to B, I don't be bathing myself, I still here misbehaving myself. You know I just can't behave in myself. So it is something that you can switch in and out of them. All right? And that again, it's allowed. It's also fine to decide, you know what? I've been rhyming for a bit, and then I'm going to not rhyme this line, and then I'm going to come back and rhyme the line underneath. All right? I noticed this a lot about Vybz Kartel. Vybz Kartel would rhyme 4 lines in a row, and then the 5th line wouldn't rhyme, and then he would rhyme 6, 7, 8, and he would probably switch up the melody as well. So like I heard him do something where he would rhyme, do the same thing I just said, rhyme 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doesn't rhyme, 6, 7, 8 rhymes. But the melodies also match that. That's another thing about rhyming. We're talking about songwriting, right? So you have a melody. A melody is a series of notes that you sing in a rhythm, all right? So you can have your rhymes match melodies. So when Vybz Kartel did that thing that I was just talking about, he would sing da na na da na 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 da na 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 da na 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 na. Those 4 lines rhyme. Then the 5th line is da na 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 na. Doesn't rhyme. Da na 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 na. Goes back to the rhyme that he was doing before. Na 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 na. I guess it sort of breaks monotony, and it helps to be able to, it keeps things fresh. This is not about what must be done. This is about what can be done. Sometimes people are creatively restricted, not by what they feel that they must do, but what they feel that they can do, or where their mind is as far as what is possible with what they're writing. And so all of this is just to open your mind to the possibilities. And it may not be that when you rhyme, you use the exact same melody when you're rhyming. That may not be necessary. What you can do instead is that you can use antecedent and consequent melodies, which is just fancy words for you have a question melody and you have an answer melody. Ba 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 bam, ba 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 bam. Right? That's an example of that. You understand? So you can do that as well. You can have 2 different melodies you can have 2 different melodies where they match each other sort of, but not necessarily. All right? That would be an antecedent and consequent, I did a little of this, but I also injected another rhyme in the middle of the line. That is in which song was that? That was what was the name of that song, boy? Why am I forgetting my own music? No Conscious Message. This was my own song, right? The third verse, I had a melody where I decided that I would have an antecedent melody that I would sing twice, and then follow it up with a consequent melody that I would sing twice, right? But everything would rhyme. But for the consequent melody, I would have a note that I extend where I put in another rhyme. Now, the rhyme that I was using was a simple two-syllabic rhyme, imperfect, right? Two-syllabic rhyme. And then in between, I put in a one-syllable rhyme, one-syllable imperfect rhyme, right? For the consequent, right? So that sounded like, everything wrong me about Christ, and that does get some people tight and they find I shouldn't raise my hand to say Christ should lead the whole island. Some say I arrogant, why man? I being as humble as I can. Besides, it's not about I man. Surprise is all about I am. So, again, this is about what is possible, all right? You can switch your rhymes in and out, and you don't have to switch 2 rhymes in and out. You can switch 4 rhymes in and out. I did that when I wrote for Curtis Jordan his song Redeemed, right? The beginning of those verses basically starts with A, B, C, D, and then I go to A, B, C, D again, and then I go to A, and then I introduce an E, which is 2 syllables. All those other rhymes were one syllable, but E is 2 syllables. I go A, E again, and then I introduce an F, that's 1 syllable, and then I go back to A and E, and then I go F again. So how that sounds is, I am redeemed, I'm bought with a price, come whatever may, wherever I go, oh, I don't live for me, I'm living for Christ, in all I do and say, I want you to know, oh, I got a zeal, burning a real yearning to praise him for everything, for he is deserving of my offering. Second verse, I am alive and well, and I am thankful to see today. I'm going to strive, I'm going to thrive, I'm not going to hell, because the Master, he is my way. He is the light, life, breathing light. Reading his word makes me to understand who is the Christ, seeing also who I am. So, again, this is about what is possible. Don't feel shackled. The more you get accustomed to these things, the more free you are. The more free you are when you're actually writing to make your stuff sound however you want it to sound. You guys have heard different things that I've worked on here in this particular installment of the Udo Ibeleme show. And so you know that even though I can be nerdy about this sort of thing, even though I have a keen sense for these sorts of things, I don't always go as hard as I can. I don't always want to go that hard, right? Because I don't have to. This is not about have to. This is about get to. This is about can. You understand? So when I'm writing, I have this in my arsenal, and I can pull it out if I want to, all right? That's what this is about. Hopefully, this is helpful to you, all right? Hopefully, this is another tool in your toolbox, all right? This question was posed to me with regards to how to rhyme in the context of the Sailor Summit, which was a live event that I had last year where I discussed all that I believe should be done before a song starts being written. This, of course, is practical, technical information that would factor into the writing of the song itself. But that was what the material was about, right? This sort of thing is useless for songwriting if you haven't done the groundwork before you start writing your song. So if you're interested in what we worked on during the Sailor Summit, stay tuned because I will be making that available again very soon. That's it for today. Praise Jesus.
You made it through the whole episode, the show done. Hope you get some positive in the nucleus, you know, a proton. Anyhow, you know the slogan.
Preach Jesus.